and this is Geek Tank.
Your giant wooden horse, the size large enough to fit an entire army in sized podcast.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Mm-hmm.
What city was that?
I can't remember.
Right? Like it's got like a hard name. It's
Yeah,
complicated.
it's complicated. It's tricky.
It's difficult.
Uh-huh.
How are you supposed to remember that name?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh, I know how. You remember Brad Pitt?
that's right.
Yeah, you
He
remember
was
Brad
such a
Pitt?
heel.
He was such a lacked soul. But yeah, I saw the Odyssey.
If you haven't guessed what jokes we're making,
Yeah, right. The 2026
now,
version.
I have to ask you though, did you feel like it was a weird thing for them to keep using your name over and over and over? Like these are the things.
No,
Because
I find it worse when there's a character in a film named Troy that's like an a-ho.
okay, because I mean, like I've had my name as Guy. Hey,
Mhm.
Brent, I've had my name Guy all of my life, obviously. So
Yeah.
every time anybody in any movie hey goes, that guy over there, or hey guy, what you doing? Or anything like that, I always like perk up, like, are they talking to me? They're not talking to me, you know. And of course, I've become somewhat, since it is a common name,
Mhm.
it's a very common name, I've become somewhat desensitized to it. And now I'm like, how does it feel when
Not
it is a
only is it
word that's not common
right.
and it shows up,
Yeah, because I mean, just the non-name version of it is used a lot, just in terms of a generic person. Hey, guy.
Right.
Whereas you don't get that with Troy.
Right.
Weirdly enough, the ancient city of Troy is rarely brought up in conversation, so I don't have that problem.
Right.
So
We're just going to talk about Troy again. Another
Yeah.
Troy thing. Have you noticed there's all these problems with Troy? Yeah.
that's right.
Traffic in Troy is so bad. And
Mm-hmm. But
I feel like
yeah,
there's a your mom joke in here somewhere. It's just got to be in here somewhere.
no, I find it more irritating that there's very few positive representations of the name Troy in movies.
Right.
Because the first time that hit me was as a teenager. Of course, one of the side, not the main villain of the Goonies, but one of the bullies that they have to deal with early on is
That's
named
right.
Troy. And I'm like, no, he doesn't deserve that name. And there's other ones, and the one that sticks out to me as being a good representation was Mark Wahlberg played a character named Troy in a movie called Three Kings, which was
Well, and then there was Troy in Community.
yes, thank you. That's not a movie though; that's a TV
No,
series.
but he's
yes,
a good representation.
that's a good
Troy.
representation. Although I'm way more like Abed than I am Troy.
Well, yeah, but still, he was a
Still,
good representation
he
of a
was.
Troy.
Very much so.
He was a decent Troy.
And I actually just watched a movie because it looked like it might be interesting, and it was interesting. I guess it's my positive thing, called Freaky Tales, on HBO, because it was the leaving soon. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll watch it since it's
Yep.
leaving soon. And one of the bad guy Nazis in it's named Troy. I'm like, great. Or, I say Nazi, but skinhead. It'd be
Right.
weird for a German to be named Troy, but
Troy.
Yeah,
Oh wait, that's
Troy.
French. I just went French. Sorry,
yeah.
French Troy.
But
Which
but
we
yeah,
all know that's a different
Mhm.
spelling.
Yeah, Freaky Tales was a weird anthology, um, pseudo / revenge theme, self defense theme in it. Very 80s feel, down to the synth pop music.
Nice.
So fun in that way. I don't know if without knowing a person really well, I don't know if I'd necessarily just recommend it as a movie to check out. But if you're missing the old style of films like The Last Dragon or something like that, then I'd say yeah, there's parts in it that's fun for that.
Excellent.
Speaking of nostalgia, I'm going to jump ahead to this movie before I come back to the Odyssey. I watched the 2026 He-Man and Masters of the Universe.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen that one?
Nope. I haven't done anything.
You haven't done, you loser.
I just worked all summer long. That's all I've done is just work.
Stupid adulting.
I know.
I was as a kid, teenager, early adult, late adult, whatever. I've never had a point in my life where He-Man was in my wheelhouse.
Right.
Um, I always thought the toys were too chunky, and I preferred toys that were way more posable. So
Mhm.
naturally, the smaller GI Joes were what I gravitated towards. I also didn't have as strong of a love for sword and sorcery stuff as I do now.
Right.
It was either modern day or sci-fi were the two areas that attracted me the most. So He-Man just didn't click anything for me. But I'd seen the cartoon a few times. I saw the Dolph Lundgren movie when it was finally on video. Uh, so I decided to go ahead and watch this because I heard it was fun, and it was really fun if you liked He-Man, which I'm like, eh, as a non He-Man fan, but as a movie fan, I enjoyed the film. It did. I recognized enough of the stuff when they were nodding towards the humor, unintentional humor of the cartoon,
Mhm.
which I thought was great. Um, it had some good jokes in it, and my comparison of it to the Odyssey is I liked the sword fights in He-Man more than I did the ones in Odyssey.
That's
Um,
interesting. Well,
and
but you and I are fighter people. Like, we do fighting, and I know that you and I both can get critical
yeah,
about
well,
weaponry.
it's the fights that the things that I could actually see and understand in the Odyssey were good. My problem is the cinematography of the fight scenes in the Odyssey. Yeah, it's a when you have a shot of like a close up of the person's chest and face and their shoulders and they're doing stuff, you have no idea what's happening.
Right.
And then when the camera's all shaky, luckily every fight scene was, or every bit of every fight scene wasn't like that, but enough of it was that way that I had to find a spot in my brain to turn that off and go, okay, I've got to think of this as a bunch of people sitting around playing D&D that hate rolling dice. And they've decided
Mhm.
combat's going to work like this. I'm going to say what I did and it happened. And
Right.
so they just like the combat
Movies.
wasn't, yeah.
Sorry.
Scary movies. Oh yeah, that's on my list to watch too. Um, but it was a good. The Odyssey was a good movie, um,
Mhm.
and it's because I'm understand that it's fictional, and even if it wasn't fictional, this wouldn't have bothered me. I had no preconceptions in my brain as to what people were supposed to look like. Um,
Yeah. Well, and
Go ahead.
I don't know. I the anthropologist in me, that whole argument comes across as so weird
Hmm.
because that area of the world is so diverse at that time in that part of culture. And so they could have looked like anything. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the gripes that I have about a lot of movies usually is that they aren't authentic about the representation of the people in that area, you know, and it isn't you know, they don't do the representation very well.
Hmm.
And so, you know, I don't know. I mean, and of course this is coming in with just hearing what the chatter is. So I don't know all of the arguments. I can just extrapolate some of it. But I also know that even though Middle East has never really been one of my strong areas of research, you know, I still have a lot of work in the Middle East that I've done. So, you know, it is a lot of varying degrees of cultures, and there are a lot
Hmm.
of people, and so anything could have been anything, you know.
Hmm.
You pretty much could have just had done an open cattle call on actors and been fine for
Yeah,
you know, for all the people that were in the Middle East.
for those who aren't familiar with it, I'm not going to name names, but some critics were complaining about the diversity in the casting choices, such as not having a white actress playing Helen of Troy
Right,
or Athena,
right,
and it is. I mean, these are fictional things, in that when the stories were created, they weren't. It doesn't matter in
right,
the stories because the things they do and the choices they make as fictional characters aren't influenced by that, and it
right.
doesn't come into part of the story. And
But it's specifically I've heard that Helen of Troy is black,
oh yeah,
and of course, they're right by Africa. and
But
and
it's
like
just, but the character is such a, like, maybe has less than like 2 minutes of screen time in the
yeah,
story.
that makes it
It's
even more sad that
makes it
this is
even,
such
it's more
a
like,
big deal.
it's like that's, she's not her, the she as in Helena Troy is not a major character. They're not telling her story. They're telling the story of Odysseus and Odysseus's son, Theseus, I think it was. I might have that wrong.
Yeah, but
Um,
and Brent, I hear that, but that's what I'm trying to say.
mhm,
Greece at that time
mhm.
was extraordinarily diverse because of the shipping lanes across the Mediterranean. So you could have had anybody being anything. So
Well, then the question with how genealogy works, how far back is acceptable to go, or does it have to be somebody who is only 1 or 2 degrees away from that nationality to be accepted?
right,
Um,
could have been
it's
anything.
Yeah, and
So
it's a, and exactly not a true
right,
story.
it's a myth.
So
Exactly.
that's
Like it could be anything.
it's dumb on so many levels.
But that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
and like I said, the thing that bugs me as somebody who's now studied the world is the world is not clean cut. I mean, the one thing that I have learned over and over and over in anthropology is it only looks like everybody was in nice little cookie cutters if you look at it on a surface level. In real life, people were just everywhere and it was messy. Like there were folks all over the place.
Hmm.
Like everywhere and things. Like you would have Chinese in the middle of the Middle East in a time when you would be like, there shouldn't be Chinese here. But the Silk Road opened up so much that there was travel going on between that during the time when Genghis Khan is like rampaging through Mongolia, and you've got like, meanwhile, Chinese traders are hanging out in London, and you're like, what? And you've got like, how is this happening? And
Hmm.
like, so it's just such a, the world's not clean cut. It just was never clean cut. And I think part of it is that our history gets, you're only allotted 18 years of practice on history, you know what I mean? Like in school, before they throw you to the world with, whatever they can get away with teaching you in school. And it's just not a lot. And
Hmm.
when you start actually getting out there, you could have had anybody anywhere. They were all over the place. There's there are like these entire things about Native Americans being brought back to Europe and merging in with the society. And so you could have technically had Native Americans wandering around. It's like who knows what's going on? Like it was so weird.
Yeah,
Then
and
we
when it comes
learn
to,
about this stuff and new zones get opened up and we find out that things were happening earlier than we thought and at different times because especially in the 19th century, science got very specific about, like, the history got very specific in the 19th century about what was going on, and it got very European centric. And the rest of the world was still moving, like, but history just started isolating itself into Europe. Continue. I'm sorry. I had to
but
finish the sentence.
yeah, I mean, it's a complex topic, and as although it's fictional, there is an interesting aspect to look at. As Brendan mentioned, it's fictional that comes from Greek culture. You think that they would have cast somebody in a slightly major role, like would have gone out of their way to find someone to represent that with a Greek actor. But you run into this problem of the whole concept of what our mutual friend says about, well, this person wasn't qualified, they only chose them because of X.
Right.
And it's got to be a thing of, when it comes to artistic stuff like this, of the director and people making specific choices to represent how they want that to feel. If you were looking at it and looking at a real thing, and it's like, when does it matter? If I was making a biography about Charlie Chaplin, it would probably be weird for me to cast a female person of color to represent Charlie Chaplin since it was a real person.
Right.
And it's at that point, it's like, well, if I'm trying to tell a different, unique story and not an authentic autobiography of him, yeah, sure, then creativity can be what it wants. Um, but as far as I'm concerned, when you come to something like Greek or fictional, I wouldn't. It doesn't really matter. It's is the actor doing their job, and do they fit the visualization for what the producer slash director and all of them want. Um, One of the big complaints with transgender is trans actors getting cast, and it's like because some people don't consider that to be accurate. They're like, well, they can't play that character because they weren't born that gender for that character. It's like they're an actor and they look the part. It works for me.
And there's and to Kristen's point, a lot of this that's interesting to me is it is fictional. It's a myth. And even if you go to, and I know you're going to be shocked that I'm going to bring it back to Star Trek, but here we go.
What's Star Trek?
I know. But I mean, that's also a myth. It's a legend. And so things that happen in there kind of are what they are. And I think one of the
I wasn't part of the Star Trek community. I'm still technically not, but I was definitely not on touch with it for when Voyager came out. What was the backlash for the captain?
no, that was
Was there any?
yeah, there was a lot.
Okay. I figured there
So
probably was.
Janeway got a lot of snark because women, shouldn't be in charge of ships and yada yada yada, and it actually really affected Kate Mulgrew's acting performance.
Oh,
And often you'll hear me talk about the hair rule in Star Trek. The hair rule in Star Trek is that Star Trek gets better when one of the main characters' hair changes. In TNG, it's when Riker gets the beard, and in DS9, it's when Cisco shaves his head, and in Voyager, it's when Kate gets rid of the bun and ends up with her nice little like cuff short hair. And it's because at that point in time, Voyager had established itself enough that they didn't feel the need to write her like a horrible, cold, evil, person, because they were worried that if she showed any, kindness or decency or whatever, people would call her soft and wouldn't accept her as a female captain in charge of the ship, which is interesting because would have accepted far more out of Patrick Stewart's Picard, or even Cisco. Cisco was allowed to be more open and loving to his son than Kate was allowed in the first few seasons, and she's talked about that a lot. She's talked about how in the beginning she was directed to be markedly harsher and colder, and then she wanted to be. And what's interesting is I feel like Janeway in the later seasons is a much more realistic and reasonable character. And I'd follow her all over the place. Like she's like a good captain. I would have followed her anywhere, and I like Janeway a whole lot better in the later seasons than the earlier seasons anyway.
mm-hmm.
And that's an interesting thing, but yeah, that was the backlash. There was
Yeah.
definitely
I
a
figured
lot
there
of
would be. I wasn't into it that much around that point, so I wasn't keeping up, and I didn't hang around forums or talk to a lot of people. But and then
Cisco got backlash too.
and they even did a whole episode which I really loved in season 6, Far Beyond the Stars.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yep.
Where they address the having a person of color as captain.
Yep, Brother Benny.
As in that he's was it 60s? I can't remember when that took place.
That was the 50s.
50s. So Cisco's character is a writer of science fiction in the 50s, and the editor slash producer, whatever, of the book said, "A black captain, that'll never happen."
Yeah,
it's like,
and then they pushed it through anyway, and then they pulped the entire run. So they shredded it because if nothing else, Far Beyond the Stars is by far one of the most eye-opening episodes of Star Trek, in that it talks about the walls that you just could not push past. And it's interesting because people think of specifically things like racism and sexism, as somebody coming up and going, you can't do this, you're black, or you can't do this because you're a woman. And it's not. It's none of that. It's never that way. It's, everybody goes, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Uh huh. Uh huh. Oh, you know what? That didn't work. Weird. And it's never that straight up right in your
Mhm.
face. It was some part of the system that you had no control over simply broke. We don't know how it happened.
Mhm.
And everybody knows why, but you can't say it. Nobody talks about it. And that's, I think you and I have had this talk many times. That's the stuff because we both grew up in the South.
Mhm.
We both saw that. And that's one of the reasons why it makes us so uncomfortable is because we saw that happen. We saw people who had done nothing wrong.
Mhm.
They didn't do anything. And the system just suddenly broke. Isn't that amazing? You know,
And
and that was
for me, it's one of those things of being raised in it, bathed in it, and washed in it, and then brainwashed in it, and being luckily to be smart enough to finally have a moment of going, this stuff isn't being logical here.
mhm,
Something's wrong, but I'm not sure what. I need to figure it out. Um, and there's too many people who never get past that point because they're just and too many people, I should say, too many white people who never get past that point because if you're not a victim of something, it's hard to recognize it,
yeah,
and it's way easier to just have blinders on and only focus on what's happening right in front of you as opposed to what's happening to other people. Um,
yeah,
and I think that's where the big step away with like fictional stuff like this needs to come because representation matters.
mhm,
And if you're if you're not white and everybody you see in something, all the heroes are all white and everything, then you never get to see yourself represented or you never get to see representation of someone like you being the hero.
mhm.
And
Moreover,
it
you
matters
never get the ability to look up to somebody who doesn't look like you. You know what I mean? Like that's
from
one
the
of
other side. Yeah,
yeah.
because if
Like for
you're
me,
white, yeah.
Cisco is one of my heroes, which 50 years ago, 100 years ago wouldn't have happened.
Mhm.
That would have never happened, you know? And that became a shift, And so I think that's one of the things. I think people underestimate how important representation is, but not just representation, but fair representation.
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple of friends of mine who are gay, and we talked in depth about how gay people were represented through the 80s, through the 90s, into 2000s, where they all had to be flaming, and the flaming gay was the only appropriate way of representing them. But that meant that it was easy to say, oh, well, all of those people are like this. When in real life, of course, gay people could be anybody, because gay isn't a personality trait.
Mhm.
So it's like people would just, and so, but with the representation of like Will and Grace, as much as I mean, Will and Grace did push so much into society, as much as that was fascinating, and it still perpetuated that stereotype to some degree. And it took time for us to get to a point where you'd have a gay person represented that was just some normal person who just happened to have a boyfriend, which has been my experience with people in the world. The gay people I know, you wouldn't know they were gay unless you found out that they were married to another guy. And then you'd be like, oh, okay. You know, but you're like, if you're, and that seems to be my experience is like most of the people I meet are just people
Mhm.
and not these stereotypes. And so it's good to have the representation, but it's also good to kind of subtly bring it back, which is one of the reasons why I loved the doctor and the engineer in Discovery, because they were just people. They were both a couple, and they were gay, and they were people, and they were married, and that was fine. And it just was. They weren't flaming, they weren't I mean, they were weird, but they were weird like all Star Trek characters are weird. You know what I mean? Like they all had their personality quirks, as all Star Trek characters do.
Hmm.
And but that had nothing to do with them being gay. And I think that that's a big push in when you talk about representation, you want it to be everybody. But I mean, even if you think about other things too, I contemplate this a lot. I keep saying that Spock has been a representation for neurodivergence for a long time. So technically, we've all been represented by Spock forever because Spock is weird and sometimes says things that don't make sense and often has problems with emotion and dealing with emotion and processing emotion properly and responding correctly and all the things that you find neurodivergent people do. And I often wonder if Spock was based off of a neurodivergent person that
Hmm.
Roddenberry knew somewhere in his travels. Because all of his characters were somebody.
Hmm.
He didn't say who, he never wanted to call them out, but
Right.
all of them were somebody he knew.
I wouldn't be surprised. I know one of my brother's friends whose his friend group is all roughly 8 to 10 years older than me, since my brother's 8 to 10 years older than me. Um, Worked for NASA and was a brilliant person, but clearly was on the spectrum before people knew what the spectrum was. Because he would use his hands for probably about 30% of his dialogue.
Hmm.
And so he would drop words from the sentence, but have his hands like involved in it.
Right.
And
We've got to do the,
yeah, with and
yeah.
and after you hung out with him long enough, you could speak the language. You
Right.
understood what he was saying. Um, but yeah, but he was a brilliant engineer for NASA, and
Yeah.
it's I could see that coming from someone like Spock. I was trying to think of the first um, gay representation that I remember on television as a kid. And so I had to do a quick look to see what would strike a memory, and I do remember watching lots of episodes of a show called Soap in the late
Right.
70s, and Billy Crystal's character
Do,
was gay in that.
do, do, do.
But it was like many of the shows around that time, his sexuality was played for laughs and humor. It wasn't
Yeah.
a proper representation.
Well, Jack
I never,
Tripper was that whole thing was with Three's Company.
yeah, he had to pretend to
Like,
be gay.
right. What's funny is there actually was a lot of acceptance as long as he was gay, which
Hmm.
I thought, I went back and recently, I don't remember what caused me to go back and watch some episodes of Three's Company. I think it was, I just, out of, either one of the actors died or something. And oh, that's right. So I went back and watched it and was watching a few episodes. And even the first episode, it was interesting how much Mr. Furley was willing to accept it as long as he was gay. He was not willing to accept this arrangement if Jack was straight,
Yeah,
but was willing
because
to accept the relationship so long as he was gay, which it was okay to have a gay person there, which
that's
I would have in my brain thought, gosh, wouldn't you think that people from the silent generation, we're not even talking about boomers, we're talking about silent generation, and that generation, wouldn't they be like, oh man, a gay person, don't touch anything,
Mhm.
sort
It was well, he didn't want any was premarital sex happening, and he figured if he had a straight man living with two women, then sex would be happening. But a gay man isn't going to have sex with two women, was his reasoning. But
right. No,
he took every chance to make fun of him as for being gay, though, too.
he did, but I'm saying that, like, and maybe this is because the world was slightly different in our generation because of the HIV/AIDS epidemic, which came
Mm,
up through the 80s. But I remember people being grossed out by homosexuality,
mm,
like didn't want to touch people who were gay. I remember that, and it's mostly because not knowing I was neurodivergent too, and being sensitive to things that you can touch and things that like as we've oft talked, I don't like anybody drinking out of my drinks. I can't stand drinking out of it after I've known somebody else has drank out of it. And the weird stuff that you get with neurodivergence anyway, I was hyper aware of people being afraid to touch gay people.
mm.
Not that I was afraid to touch gay people, but I was conscious of it and very aware of it. Um, because I remember, because this is something that was talked about at some point in time, on some thread I was on. They were talking about, well, we just, I just find it gross when two men kiss each other. And I was like, I'm going to tell you right now, as a neurodivergent, I don't know where to look when two people kiss. So,
Regardless.
regardless. So I have been uncomfortable all of my life with characters kissing on TV. I've just gotten to the point where I mask it very well. So I'm cognizant and aware every time anybody kisses, whether it's a man and a woman or a man and a man or a woman and a woman, because I don't know what I'm supposed to look at. It's an uncomfortable moment for me. I don't have the social setup, although nobody notices it anymore. But I have been
What's
all of my life aware of that. And I can easily tell you guys that it's not like gay men are kissing each other all the time right now. This is not exactly.
You can't see what's going on behind this screen.
I know, right? You're kissing somebody right now behind that screen.
Well, somebody is.
Somebody is.
I guarantee that. Now, the distance behind there, I'm not going to go into. Since I'm going to bring up stuff about hypocrisy and I want to talk about something that's not hypocritical, we should talk about the awesome Threes company that we have that helped this show happen.
Right? Once I push the buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Because I need to tell you that Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, and your
mom. So hypocrisy. So the thing that I've always found, like just before hitting puberty, I started to realize that this is a double standard. And this is usually specifically guys, and mostly heterosexual guys, have a problem with males kissing males, but not females kissing females.
Yeah, I thought that was always interesting too.
And I can't remember, as a female comedian, I hate that I can't remember who she was. I'd heard her say it's because a guy always puts themselves in what they're looking at. And they would be the third guy if there were two guys, whereas they would be the only guy with two girls. So they see two girls kissing each other and think, aha, I have a chance of having both of them because they like each other too, and then I could be there. Whereas two guys, they because they're homophobic, don't. I see you looking off to the side.
I'm doing the thing of, you said it, and all I could imagine was like this girl, this other girl, and some dude trying to shove his face in there to connect all three lips. And that's all I could think about for about a second there, was like this moment of trying to figure out how that triangle worked. And so that's where I was doing I don't know how to make that work.
That's why they called it a love triangle.
Yep, exactly.
Well, you take turns.
Good old neurodivergent brain that just has to go like the weird left angle on this one.
I mean, I made fun of this in the one of the Slug movies I made, where two girls are dancing together and Sonny's trying to dance with them, and they just like push them away like really hard.
And that's kind of the way I imagined it in my head, was like these two girls are dancing, this dude's trying desperately to get between them, and then just trying to be on one corner all the time. It became much more entertaining. It actually was funny in my head. It started to become really entertaining.
As it should be. But I always thought it was an interesting hypocritical thing, because it wasn't about so much. They accept only one aspect, these type of male thinking. I have actually not talked to a lot of females that I know that are homophobic, so I don't have a lot of source of information on that type of, on those, from that female aspect.
Right.
Because most females I know that I've talked to about sexuality and stuff have zero problem with it.
Right.
Now there's of course, when you get into the strong religion, then they have bought into the one concept of that, and this all goes into a whole translation of everything.
But I think that religion adds a different aspect.
It's a different layer, and I think a lot of people hide behind that layer, even though they don't necessarily believe in that layer.
Well, and I remember being socially grossed out by homosexuality when I was younger, before I learned that it really wasn't any big deal. And mostly that was because in the 80s, my friends who had ultimately become homosexual down the road were closeted.
Mhm.
So nobody was near me that was close and someone I cared about and had a very close relationship to, that I could actually talk to and ask all the uncomfortable questions.
Mhm.
I think that was one of the greatest things ever, was to have one of my close friends come out of the closet and I could actually say, "Can I ask all the stupid, uncomfortable questions?"
That
'Cause
that I don't wanna ask someone because they're
right, that I don't
stupid.
want to ask some random person because I'm afraid it'll make me look like an asshole, and I don't want to do
Mhm.
that. And they were like, "Yeah, sure," because I know who you are. We've
I already know you're an asshole, so go
right. I
ahead and
already know
ask the
you're an asshole,
questions.
so it's not a real problem at that point, right? But and I think that helps, and it's the same thing with trans,
Mhm.
and that situation as well. I mean, I'm dealing with that very closely with a couple of very close people in my life,
Mhm.
and in that, it changes your perspective, you know, and it didn't. And that's the other thing. Of course, I've now had long discussions with people who were bi and gay and trans and I'm still heterosexual male, but I am now markedly more understanding of all of these other things that I would never get into myself,
Right.
and that's fine. But there's a lot of things I wouldn't get into myself. For example, I would never drive a Ford voluntarily,
Hmm.
right? But I can understand other people driving Fords. I get it, but I wouldn't do that.
Mhm.
Or an automatic.
You never
There
had
are
someone
people
just
who drive automatics. I think that's
Yep.
weird, but I would never do that myself.
The older you get, the harder it's gonna be for you to find one.
No, I'm completely involved with electrics. I'm just going to move to electrics.
Those are very much automatic.
No, they're not automatic at all.
Well, you don't have to tell it what gear to go into.
Yeah, because it doesn't have any gears.
Mhm. It's the same result though.
So you're doing the thing that many people do whenever I say I don't like automatics, which
Yeah.
is presuming that my problem is that I like to do the shifty thingy and the footy thingy. And the truth is, no, I hate the lag in the automatic. I've always hated that. You hit the gas pedal and like 20 minutes later the car starts going. I hate that feeling. Or you're on snow and ice and all of a sudden the car goes, "You know what? I think I'll go to first gear now," and you slip and slide because of that. That crap is the stuff I've always hated out of automatics. I just don't like that. I also don't like the loss of horsepower through the torque converter. But
Sounds like
it's
one
not
of
a
those.
matter of, I mean, I do like shifting manual transmissions. I do like that. I enjoy that. That's good for my ADD brain. But the truth is, it's all the lag crap that I don't like. And the CVT transmissions are even worse.
So it's a
Like those things
transmission
are,
fluid issue.
man, those things just, ugh.
If people
Anyway,
aren't keeping their car up to date, then yeah,
but
that's gonna do it.
electrics don't have a transmission, so I don't have to worry about any of that. And every time I've slammed my foot
Mhm.
down on the gas pedal on electric, it
Mhm.
has decided to get up and go.
Yeah, it's faster than you could ever do in a manual.
Yeah. So I got no problems with it at
Mhm.
all. It does exactly what I want out of a car. So yeah, I'm just going to go transition straight from
Mhm.
manual to electric and then just never pass through automatic. I hate automatics so bad. But I mean, that and I've gone on a digression just simply because it's
Yeah.
been my ongoing funny thing.
Yeah, there's automatics that don't have that problem. I think your problem is you haven't had the right type of well-kept vehicle to not have that issue.
Uh,
Mhm.
the real problem was the automatics that I drove were in the 80s, and those were crap
Mhm.
because they're now much better. I'm sure there are some great automatics out there that are just fine. But you know what? I've gone this far without it. I don't need to worry
Mhm.
about it at this point in time. I can be snarky about it. And
Sure.
it makes for a funny quirk for driving. So, I mean, I guess if somebody said, "Hey, I'm going to give you a free car. It's a brand new 2026
Mhm.
automatic, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to pay a dime." I'm not going to sit there and go, "No."
Mhm.
You know,
No.
I certainly
My
will.
first car was free and it was a Ford, and it served me well.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
I just don't like Fords because I worked on too many of them
Mhm.
when I was younger.
But what I found
Um,
is, if people into cars always have that car brand that they don't like. Our friend of ours who sells cars has that for Subarus. They think
yep.
Subarus, to them, Subarus are your Fords,
Yeah.
which is
And you're right. Car people, and that's the thing. And even when we're doing class and I'm talking to the kids in the class, I specifically said, I'm a car guy. I have opinions. You don't have to agree with my opinions. When I tell you how you have to drive on the road, I'm your teacher. You have to do
Mhm.
what I say. But when it comes to whether you should buy this car or buy this kind of car or own this kind of car, I have opinions. You don't have to follow any of them.
Right.
And I
And
use
everybody has
your
different
mileage
budgets.
may vary. It's my code word for it, you know. So if I sit there and say Fords suck, your mileage may vary. You know,
Yeah.
it means you can have a
Especially if you drive it over top of a hill and flip it over.
yeah. There you go. That is definitely a lot of mileage varying.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't do that with a bunch of magic cards in your car.
yeah, because then you have magic cards everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yep.
True story.
Yeah,
For
it's
a friend of ours. A friend of ours is a very specific friend of ours.
yeah, very specific. We won't
Uh,
name any names.
what's funny is when I drove past it, because of how much dirt and mud was on it, it looked like it had been there for years. So I'm like, that's weird. That looks like my friend's car, but it can't possibly be because it looks like it's been here for years. No, it's definitely my friend's car, and it's just it got trashed so badly that it aged in the
Yeah,
process.
it aged the car.
It did. So anyway,
Back
yeah,
to our original topic before we wandered way afield.
absolutely. But yeah, representation matters, and good representation matters. And what you grow up with is going to influence you.
Yep.
And when you were mentioning the ickiness of that, I remembered a lot of the lies that were floating around in my universe from the adults that they tried to push as a fact was that if you were homosexual and male, that also meant that you were a pedophile.
Right.
And it's like,
They do that now with transgender people too.
yeah,
That just moved over.
yeah, or rapists,
Yeah.
which apparently they do, or rapists will pretend to be transgender in order to get into a bathroom, which is just such the logic is so stupid it hurts my head. Uh-oh.
It's a good question.
Depends on the day.
Yeah.
Saturday is
I
more
think
expensive than
Saturday
Sunday.
and Sunday are Saturday is more expensive.
If you run 4 hours of some game for a certain area head that I know, they'll get you a free pass for that day. That means like demo of a board game or RPG or organized miniature battle game, that kind of stuff.
Just saying.
Yep. Got connections, should use them.
You should use them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, so 3-day is still $60. Pre-purchase.
I'm gonna assume
Which
Saturday,
actually isn't bad at all,
Saturday's
considering cons. Cons are so expensive these
is
days.
Saturday 35 or something.
No, Saturday is now up to 50. So prices have definitely gone up.
Wow,
It's 40 for Friday, 50 for Saturday, and 45 for Sunday.
or 60 for all
Interesting
three.
that 30 is for the rave only. That's interesting.
Wasn't the rave also? Is that rave cost normally even if you have a badge?
Yeah,
Sarah?
rave's included, but some people just go to the rave.
It's included. Okay, that's what I meant. I thought there was an additional fee. That's
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. That sounds reasonable. Yeah, no. Your best bet is to get a 3-day pass, then you can come in whenever you want. Because it's $50 for Saturday or $60 for all 3 days if you buy it now. But you've got to do that before. Yeah, do that before August 7th. So if you guys are going to do indicate early badges, you've got a week. So yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, I'm so sorry to have to say that because I've never paid for NDK because I've worked every single NDK. So I've never paid for it. I've always worked all of them. So I don't know what they've ever cost until I go back through the museum stuff and we look through data on that.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that when I was on the board, we were working very hard to not raise the prices because the idea was to keep it cheaper and not super expensive.
Hmm.
But then we moved to the Gaylord, and that thing costs a bajillion dollars. So anyway,
Even so, it's still considering what's going through. It's going to cost you more to park, almost.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's a good point. If you are going to indicate, we've said this many times, and we've even we've even made this point a couple of times on Geek Tank straight up. If you're going to indicate, highly recommend that you guys take the train, take the AB, or the A train, take it out there. Not A train, the superhero, but A train, because he just goes way too fast, and you wouldn't be able to hold on. So, but take the train and then go to the train stop. They've got a they'll start running a shuttle back and forth from the train station. So
yeah, and it's cheaper to park at the park and rides because it ends up being something between like $2 to $6 a day, depending on which
yeah,
one you park at.
yeah,
It'll cost you $45 a day to park at the actual parking lot at the Gaylord.
yeah,
It's nuts.
yeah. I'm actually going to get dropped off and just stay there the weekend, and
Mhm.
I'm not coming back. I'm not leaving. Yeah.
But for comparison, Denver's Fan Expo, a single day pass can range from 30 to 70, um, depending on the package you get. And if their 4 day pass is roughly 120 to 130. And on top of that, from what I've heard, because this is not a category, it's not one of my fandoms, if you want to get photos with anybody, that
Oh
costs
yeah.
extra. So this is just to get in the door, and then all this extra stuff would cost. There's, I think, is the burlesque a separate charge? I feel like that might be, but I've never
I
gone.
don't think the burlesque is a separate charge, but they go
Okay.
around for tips. So you want to take money.
Um. So yeah,
Just
it's
the tips.
yeah, yeah. It's the burlesque and the rave are the only two things that I would think if they were going to cost extra, those would be the two things that would cost extra.
Yeah.
I do they now. I know there's panels with guests.
I have
Are there
panels. I have like 12.
guest signings that cost money?
I
Or
will charge you for my autograph. If you want my autograph, the price is
Mhm.
typically mint dark chocolate.
Or guy doesn't know what's. So there may be other charges with NDK that I'm unfamiliar with, but I know that
No,
the vast.
actually, there are no charges for guests. As far as like the guest autograph sessions, I think
Yeah.
they do charge now.
Okay.
But like me and
That
Dr.
seems.
Friedman,
Yeah. It seems like
the,
that's
the
become
price for our
standard.
signature.
Seems like most conventions they've made that their standard. Um,
There isn't a K truck show. There's Atasha. Atasha are the Atasha cars. Those are cars. I want to start putting in K-Tora. If I was, it's, the problem is I don't know where my future is at this moment. I'm not sure whether I'm staying in Colorado at the time. But if I was staying in Colorado, now that K trucks are legal here, I would so get myself a K truck and stick it in the middle of their Atasha and just make them deal with it.
you got to get. You've got to get the Atasha wraps, but have it look like the Enterprise on
Right.
the K car.
So there is the perfect van that they made in the 1960s, a Dodge van, which the headlights were round headlights that they just continued down the body with that sort of round thing going from the headlights all the way back, which makes it look
Oh,
like little warp nacelles on either side. It
yeah.
is like the perfect van for a shuttlecraft. I've thought about this all the time. Pick up one.
What's the van's name or
It's just a 67 Dodge. It's just called a Dodge van. It's like the Dodge things from the 60s. It's like a S2700 or whatever. Let me see if I can find it.
I found them. The one I'm looking at though doesn't. There we
Yep,
go. That's
A100. It's the A100. Right off the bat. 1960 A100.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see here if I can. It's sports van. Here, I'll share my screen
Yeah.
so you can see what I'm talking about here. Because it's perfect on this one.
Yeah, I found a white one.
Yep, let's do this. That's what it looks like. But you can see right down the side. It just looks like it's got a warp nacelle. This
Mm.
is like the perfect van. I would totally get one of these, and I'd put like all the little logos on it. It'd be beautiful. It'd be
Mhm.
pretty. I've thought about this a lot. This
Just a,
specific model, the A100 van.
yeah, and and just paint the top part to look like the saucer
Right.
section.
I mean, like, well, no, I mean, it'd be a shuttlecraft, so it
Oh, I see.
actually looks pretty much like a shuttlecraft did in the original series. So, I mean, like, this is perfect for it. So, yeah, I've thought about that a lot. There's been a lot of thinking about that in my days. I've thought about, you know, because these would be perfect for it, unreasonably perfect. So, yeah, the A100 Dodge van.
Except it wouldn't make sense in the K cup.
It wouldn't, but it'd be great for anything else. Yeah, that's the problem. It's true in Colorado as well. KTOR aren't allowed on the freeways. You're not allowed to go over 55. And as a driving instructor, I know exactly why they're talking about that too. And that's because you don't have sufficient crumple zones in the front of K vehicles. The KTOR especially are cab overs, and cab overs mean that the cab of the vehicle is over the engine, which means that your crumple zone is your legs.
There
So
you go. How do
there
I?
you go. You
I've
need
got.
to swap with me.
Yeah, I just have to drag it. Got it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. I've seen that guy before.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that guy either. I mean, that's a great.
Actually, there is. You can't tell by looking at it though. You want me to
But
tell you what it is?
you can't see at all.
You can't see. It's a Ford.
Oh well, that's yeah. I'm not messing.
Yeah, that's what I told you. That's the problem. You can't see.
Kristen, I saw one today. It was beige. Are you talking about K truck or the A100 vans? I see there is a couple of A100s that are here in town. There was one that came up in a Facebook Marketplace, which is what started this whole thing of me thinking about it. Was because an A100 showed up in the marketplace, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'd pick that up." But I'm sure since it's a 1960 van, it's probably not in good shape anymore, and I'd have to rebuild the whole stupid engine. I don't know if I'd want to mess with that at all. Yeah, nice. Kristen's like, I saw an A100. Yeah, there are a couple of them that tootle around here in town. I know, I've seen them around, and I love those guys. They're so unique. I was talking today about that in class because I was teaching today, and I was talking about that today. There's like only so, because there's a kid in the class that his aunt is running a Nissan Leaf, the same model year as the one that I drive around in right now, which is the one that looks kind of like Frog. And we were talking about how they're not necessarily pretty, nor are they really ugly, but they definitely are unique. When you see them on the road, they totally, you can see a Nissan Leaf first gen. But then the second gen just looks like a station wagon, and the third gen looks like every other SUV crossover that's ever been out there. And I'm like, why would you get rid of the uniqueness of it? Because that A100 is so unique looking that you can see it, and you're like, I see that vehicle. And it's back to what that author that we follow, because I know a lot of us follow that same author who does the videos about random things. He was talking about how cars have gotten markedly angrier over the years because the headlights keep getting aimed down and meaner and like when they're cute and fluffy, those cars only last like one generation and then they immediately make them angry again. It's like, and I was thinking about that. I was like, there is definitely a progression towards angry cars.
Speaking of angry cars, I had an idea, and I'm like, well, somebody's had to have done this yet, but all I'm finding is like AI crap, which looks like, thanks for showing me AI crap. That's not what I was looking for. But taking a Nissan Cube and making it a board cube.
Yep.
It's like, I thought for sure somebody would have done that already, but if they have, internet's not finding it. It's showing me AI pictures of what it would look like. It's like, it's not what I want to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, Board cube.
Definitely Borg Cube. Speaking of cars that do look interesting,
Hmm.
especially that wraparound window, which I find fascinating on that car. The wraparound back window.
Yeah, because it gets rid of one of the pillars.
Yeah, and it's a blind spot. It's done to get rid of the blind spot, which I think is amazing and makes it so unique. Like looks really interesting.
I keep waiting for them to do that with front windows.
Yeah. They can't. They need the A pillars for airbags now.
Oh yeah, so even if you made them translucent, you would still see the airbag
Yeah.
stuff in it.
Yeah, you can't. You can't do that.
So what we need then is we need those cameras on the outside that then reflect on the inside what they're seeing on the outside. The active camouflage.
Yeah,
Is that what it's
active
called?
camouflage.
Just reverse it.
Right.
So you're camouflaging the pillars so you can see what's on the other side.
Yeah. 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 Back to the kind of
Yeah.
talking about motorcyclists and why motorcyclists are more capable of being able to see around them than cars because we're stuck in a cage.
Yeah.
Car drivers.
Unfortunately for the motorcycles, the cage sometimes blocks the motorcycle from view because the motorcycle is so small.
Yeah. 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 I could go on a complete tangent on cars.
We got 2 minutes.
We got 2 minutes left.
And
Do you
for
want to wrap
the British
up?
British viewers, 2 minutes.
You see, now you're just making everybody mad.
I'm going to start an international incident.
Wouldn't be the first time for us.
No.
So someone was talking. Oh, that same author was talking about web pages that have been around for a very long time and don't have any major sponsorships or anything like that. And he was talking about all of these like cute little left, out in the middle of nowhere groups. And I kept thinking, that's us. We've got like 7 people that know we exist, and that's it. But we've been around since 2014. Like, we've been around for a long time, and we've been kind of hanging out, and we just do. And we do this for the love of the just getting online and being out there. I think part of it also is, Kristen I know in real life, and Brent I know in real life, and in a way,
you don't know me though in real life.
I don't know Troy in real life, but I mean, like in a way, this is kind of like me connecting with those guys again too. So they know I'm still alive. They know I'm still here. Sometimes you just want to know your friends are still alive.
I got bad news, guys. AI'd.
That's why I've got 27 fingers.
Yeah.
If
you had 27 fingers, you'd still be married. Ha ha.
But yeah.
I don't. That's
I know that was like
it's like stupid logic.
That one goes like deep in weird ways. Anyway, or maybe it doesn't.
So I mentioned this last show. I've been watching the last one, Laughing. I watched the UK version, which so far has been my favorite. They have 2 seasons. I watched the Ireland version, which didn't really hit for me. Watching the Australian version, which is okay. So far, I would only recommend the UK version. But this is a show that I really want to be on because it's a bunch of comedians in a room for 6 hours trying to get each other to smile or laugh. And I've just, that part of my brain doesn't work the same as everybody else's.
Right.
So I could deadpan my way through the whole thing. The cringy thing is when some of the comedians, and I didn't see this as much on the UK version, which is probably why it's my favorite, the stupid things they do that might make like a 7-year-old laugh. And it's kind of like pouring water on their head, taking off their pants. It's just cringy. It's not funny.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like, and none of this has worked on any of the other comedians.
Yeah. And I think about that a lot. Things like that. I don't often laugh. I have to have a program to remember to laugh. So I could just stop running the program.
Yeah. That's what I do.
I mean, there are things that do make me laugh. Yes, certainly. I mean, but it wouldn't be that hard for me to just go into the Spock mode and just stare at you and raise an eye.
Now the trick is, could you turn off the smiling aspect, because that's a social cue thing. And
Right.
a lot of the people are caught out on that because it's just when something comes up, it's like an approval thing is to smile,
Right.
and if you smile, that's also a mark against you. But yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, at some point I'm going to check out the Japanese version, which is the origin of the first version of the show.
I'll watch that with you. I'd love to
Um,
see that too with you.
I'm curious if the humor will translate.
Right. And if there are going to be cushions, that's one of those things.
So yeah, we'd have to watch that
Yeah,
together.
that'd be interesting. So let's watch that together.
Yeah,
Let's plan that to be one of our things that we do together.
yeah. We're
This,
almost one episode left of the boys for you to be finished with it.
yep. And then, well, and this week is my last run for the summer, and then we go back to our markedly less stressy and crazy summer or schedule.
You're gonna have a
So,
brat summer.
the what?
A brat summer.
A brat
Was that only last year that brat summer existed? It's I'll look it up. So see, right now there's a bunch of younger generations just cringing if they actually watch this.
Oh.
Brat Summer, a cultural and lifestyle trend inspired by British pop singer XCX hit album called Brat, characterized by its signature lime green aesthetic. Kind of. So yeah, it started getting used as a terminology for having a brat summer, which I don't need to know any more than that. I learn these words so I can use them to make people cringe.
Yeah. It's like you remember the video that we had in class 8 that we had to talk about where it was talking about donating donor dudes.
Yes, that's a horrible
And
video.
I hated that because, and I was telling the kids this, I'm like, it's actually not a bad show, except that it's a bunch of millennials saying the word dude. And I'm like, as a Gen Xer, you just can't. You can't.
Mhm.
And I said, and so I would sit there and they would give me kind of a look and I'd be like, no cap. You can't say that, bro. Like, you have
It's
to have
not.
more
It's not.
riz than that.
It's not skibbity.
It's not skibbity. And the kids go, yeah. And I'm like, see,
That's just yeah.
that's it right there.
You can't have the generation above you using that generation's.
Right. Because like Elliot, the guy that was in there, the guy who was with the Spurs, he's Gen X. And you can totally tell because everybody else is going, become a donor, dude. And he's like, be a donor, dude. And I'm like, see, you just got to drip with sarcasm and derision.
Mm-hmm.
If you're Gen X, you just have to like ooze evil.
I never got called out on not showing that video.
You didn't show that video?
I wouldn't often not show that. If I was showing it's because I would have a class that just wasn't getting into the competitiveness of like the Jeopardy and the other stuff.
Yeah, I don't do Jeopardy. That's why.
Yeah.
Because if I did Jeopardy with the class, they would fight each other and then they would get mad at me. And I hated that. Because the way I run my classes is mutual, like we work together to get to the end of this class sort of things. And
mutually ensured destruction.
Yeah, and as soon as they turn against each other, that ruins the entire structure of the class, and then all the kids are mad, and then I can't get the control of the classroom again. So yeah, all right. I never did Jeopardy. I skipped it. Hangman wouldn't be bad, but Jeopardy wasn't going to make it.
Well, we are officially did our time.
Dinner time?
Our recording time says 1 minute or 1 hour and 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So
it is. Oh, there we are. Yeah, it's way up in the top and very small. Yeah. I never understand all the controls here. Like they changed them a lot. Oh, my lights just changed. That's it.
That's Guy's cue. That's Guy's cue. Thank you for joining us, Kristen.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Brent. Thanks for joining us, Kristen. We appreciate you both. And thanks for joining us, all of you who are watching this in the reruns. And
or being silent out there.
Yeah, well, I mean,
there's only 2 eyeballs.
Yeah, I was going to say there's only 2 eyeballs up there, which means both of you guys are only giving us 1 eyeball. That's weird. All right, we'll be back next week with lots of different things, and I will be a year older, weirdly.
Yeah. And we might talk about Star Trek, but no promises.
We might, because Strange New Worlds did drop a new episode, so time for me to start talking about the new episodes of Star Trek. All right, but until then, we're just going to have to get going because that's all the time we have for today.
Mhm.
Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week. And until then, I have been Guy.